protecting Main Street from Wall Street. It's Chris Hoffman with Money Unleashed.
How much money do you put into your checking account from work on a month-to-month basis? It has a high probability that with your investable assets, we can replace that paycheck.
It's time to put you back in control of your money.
You've worked for 35 years. It's time for you to not stress. It's time for you to enjoy and live the retirement you want to live.
It's Money Unleashed with Chris Hoffman.
Welcome into the Money Unleashed podcast with Chris Hoffman of the Hoffman Financial Group. New episodes come your way on Mondays and Fridays, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. With that said, let's jump into the show. Chris, I think we're always looking for the best ways to do things. That's the obvious statement of the show, maybe the obvious statement of life for a lot of people. But sometimes that starts by knowing what the absolute worst way to do something is and avoiding it. With that in mind, here's one of the most critical questions for retirement planning. Have you considered the order from which you'll withdraw your retirement income? Smart Asset came up with a list of the worst ways to withdraw from your retirement accounts, and I'd love to know what jumps off the page to you here, Chris, because some of these, they might seem pretty obvious to longtime listeners of the show, but everybody might want to revisit some of these. And let's lead off with this one. Don't start your withdrawal strategy by pulling from your investment income.
Yeah, that's an oftentimes overlooked and big-time mistake that investors make and retirees make. And what do we mean by that? Well, your portfolio needs to pay you, and it should generate interest and income to send you. You should not be forced to sell positions of stock. So let's just use a stock that's exploded. NVIDIA. You shouldn't be selling NVIDIA stock to fund your income in retirement. That should come from your dividend portfolio, the 3.5%, 4% you're getting in dividends. That should come from the interest from bonds or money market or whatever you have in a fixed income product. That should come from Social Security. That should come from pensions. That should come from rental property. You have to generate income from your income sources or your dividends. And that's a big mistake that retirees make is they say to their financial advisor, okay, I need $60,000 from my portfolio annually, and I'll then add Social Security to it or what have you. And that basically raises a question mark as to how that advisor is going to send you that $5,000 a month. And if it has to be $5,000 even every month and it can't vary, then inevitably I believe they will be holding too much cash. I see that commonly occur with Wall Street. They will put a bunch of money in cash and just say, well, you need $60,000 a year, so we've thrown $30,000 in cash. Well, that's not managing an income plan. That's basically just selling out of positions and throwing it in cash, which is money market's paying like 3.5%, which isn't attractive anymore. So that's a huge mistake financial advisors make. The other mistake they make is they start selling stock. So they'll liquidate holdings and they'll just randomly pick a portion of your portfolio to sell out of. And that's not healthy. It's certainly not healthy if it's in a taxable account because you may get capital gains and not offset it with capital losses. But it's just a bad way to manage your financial life. It's potentially damaging because now the market's been going up. So selling shares of stock might reduce your risk profile, and that might be okay. But that has to be an educated decision. You certainly don't want to be in a position where you have to sell stock to generate your monthly or annual income if the market's going down. What do we want to do when the market's going down, folks? We want to buy. So you've got to use your investment income or your dividends or Social Security, pension, et cetera, in retirement first. That's the first thing that you should pull from. Start with that. Not starting with it was a huge mistake.
You don't want to undercut your ability for those investment assets to continue to garner that compound interest. And if you dive straight into those accounts, it can cost perhaps years worth of income in your retirement savings. Now, another one of these, the worst ways, again, to withdraw from your retirement accounts is claiming Social Security benefits at 62. I'm guessing that, Chris, obviously this is an individualized process. There are a lot of different ways to do it. So a one-size-fits-all for Social Security sounds like a bad idea to me.
Yeah, well, so on your first point, I categorically agree. investment income has to be the first thing you pull down. Claiming Social Security benefits at 62, as you pointed out, it's very individualized. It depends on your family. It depends on whether you're single. Depends on whether you need that income. And if you're retired or forced into retirement and you don't have enough income being generated from your portfolio, you may be pressed to trigger at 62. Now, that's not as devastating as it sounds, folks. I know 67, you get an increase. And then from 67 to 70, you get nice increases every year. But if you're having to pull from your savings or your portfolio, you may be damaging that from being able to grow. And that points to point number one, is use your investment income. Don't sell out of positions in your portfolio. So when I talk to clients and we do Social Security planning, typically they have it locked in exactly when they want to trigger, which is very interesting. They'll say, no, I want to wait till 67 to get my full retirement benefit. Or some will say, I want to wait until 70 because I want the government to pay me my maximum allowable amount. Well, you're waiting until 70, which obviously takes life expectancy into effect, right? Because now you're 8 years older than if you had triggered it at 62, and they're not going to pay you that money back after you pass away. But there are absolutely a ton of reasons to wait until 67, to wait until 70, but you need to analyze it for you and or your spouse and both of you and your family, because there are hundreds of ways of triggering Social Security. You've got to make the right decision for you and your family. So I think categorically saying claiming Social Security benefits at 62 is a mistake is not true. It may be, but it may be a mistake to wait until 70.
Yeah.
So you got to look at it individually, and you got to get a Social Security study done before you make that final call. And a Social Security study is not, well, if I trigger at 62 or I trigger at 67 or I trigger at 70, here's my crossover point. By the way, folks, most people that do that in their spreadsheets don't account for the fact that if you start collecting at 62 and you don't need that money, you can reinvest it. So don't discount and say, well, I'm losing my 8% increase from 67 to 70. You may not be, because if you invested it at inflated interest rates, let's say 5%, well, you get 5% and you're guaranteed to collect that money. And now you've got 3 more years that you're going to be collecting it. So it pushes that break-even point or that crossover point out farther. So let us do the study for you, is my message. We'd be happy to run a Social Security analysis for you, give you varying scenarios, and we'll show you an optimal strategy actually as well. So Social Security is important. You got to analyze it.
If you want to get that done, it's complimentary, 404-341-6767. You can sign up for a time at unleashyourmoney.com as well. You can click on any of the buttons, and somebody will get in touch with you and just tell them you want that Social Security analysis. But Chris, in you saying all that and running through all that scenario, it kind of falls under something we've talked about on the show before, which is the art and the science of going through these retirement planning scenarios for each and every person and individualizing those. Something else on our list here, though, from Smart Asset. Withdrawing from your 401k and IRA before your RMDs kick in, Chris, there's quite a gap between when you can pull from those accounts and when you have to pull from those accounts. And I would imagine, just as you laid out with Social Security, a lot of nuance to those decisions as well.
Yeah, I would put that in the same classification as number 2, claiming Social Security benefits at 62. Yeah, when can you pull from your pre-tax IRA or 401k? 59.5. Don't get a penalty. When do you have to? 73. You're right. That's a wide gap.
Yeah.
And there are many, many times, folks, that I encourage my clients to begin taking withdrawals from their IRA as soon as they retire. Why? If it's all pre-tax IRA, you got to be careful in retirement not to pull from your cash in your bank accounts, not to pull from your taxable accounts to avoid taxes, because eventually that pre-tax money, it comes due. And when you hit the RMD table, you are forced to take it out. And every year, the percentage that you need to take out goes up. And at about 79 years old, that percentage starts to really accelerate quickly. So we analyze it on an annual basis, and we want to make sure that we have equal amounts of all the monies. Not necessarily equal in percentages, but equal in not getting a negative tax consequence. So you need to analyze, how much do I have in pre-tax? How much do I have in taxable money? How much do I have in tax-free money? Obviously, building the taxable and tax-free bucket is key. You don't want to be overtaxed and do something exaggeratory, but withdrawing from your pre-tax 401k or IRA is not necessarily off the table in your 60s. So that would be my message. Again, very individualized. You need to analyze it and come up with a plan.
You brought up the potential tax consequences of how you withdraw from these accounts, but I think that dovetails into the last point here, which is tapping into your Roth before exhausting your other options. That sounds like more of one that you really want to spend some time thinking about and or avoiding possibly getting out of order there.
Yeah, so that one's the closest to number one that we've talked about. We certainly want to preserve our tax-free money for several reasons. In today's tax environment, I would say absolutely I agree with do not tap into your Roth before pulling down your pre-tax IRA. The other reason I'm saying that is because I believe there's a massive imbalance. Well, I know there's a massive imbalance between pre-tax 401k money and Roth 401k because they introduced Roth 401ks much later. So that's a concern as well. Pulling down your Roth money, though, also then could potentially damage your estate planning because if your kids inherit pre-tax IRA, they are forced to take it out over a 10-year period, and they might be in their highest wage-earning years. Inheriting a Roth IRA, they do not have to take RMDs. They can let it grow tax-free. Great way to build generational wealth. So again, it's very individualized, but in today's tax environment and the Trump administration over the next 4 years, I'd be hard-pressed to pull from Roth before taking a bite out of the pre-tax IRA money.
Yeah, and just that one scenario, if given the choice between creating generational wealth or handing your kids what could be a very large tax bill, I think we all know which one that we would like to choose. But you have to identify all of these things. You have to understand how your plan works and how your account works and when the best time is to take from these accounts and how to balance it all together. Give us that call, book a time, get a portfolio x-ray done. That's the way we get started here with Hoffman Financial Group. It's a complimentary service. It can show you how to grow your money, how to protect your money in those retirement accounts as well. It's just a critical step in knowing where you are so you can get where you want to go. Let's get started today. The portfolio x-ray is complimentary. No cost whatsoever to book your time to speak with Chris's team at the Hoffman Financial Group. 404-341-6767, 404-341-6767, or sign up online at unleashyourmoney.com. Chris Hoffman is an investment advisor representative of Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor and affiliate of Brookstone Capital Management, LLC. BWA and Hoffman Financial Group are affiliated under common ownership. Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interest of our clients and to make full disclosures of any conflicts of interest. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV2A, page 4, for additional information. The Hoffman Financial Group and WSB are not affiliated. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. This information should not be considered tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a professional specializing in the field of tax, legal, accounting, or investments regarding the applicability of this information for their situation. Any client experiences discussed during the show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments will fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Any comments regarding safe and secure products and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing company and are not offered by Brookstone. Index or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV2A Item 4, for additional information. Hoffman Financial Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Insurance licensed in Georgia, number 163546.